I find this interesting that you mentioned that we should be developing game intelligence by moving away from traditional instruction-based coaching. Now, I would have thought that some of the traditional coaching would still be relevant.
I don't like to say it, but let me say a bit rude, because I think to be provocative and attacking, maybe it helps. Your football in Australia is starting with the feet. Mm-hmm. We should finish the game of football with our feet and start football in our head. All football starts in the head, passes through the heart and descends to the feet. So we have to finalize the game with the feet and not start to play the game with the feet. Because every action in football and every action in our life has three phases. The first is that I perceive the situation, what is going on the football field. And when I see what is happening and I understand what is happening, I come to a decision. And once I come to a decision, I carry out, I execute what my mind has told me. So you are concentrating, I feel, in Australia too much on the execution of the technical movement without considering sufficiently the phase of or the mechanism of perception and decisioning. To go even to have a harder critic, there is a discrimination of the perception, of the value of the perception in team sports in Australia. But that's very necessary to improve. The perception is the initiation of all actions in football. So we have to consider it and have to teach our kids not only to perceive the situation, also to understand what they see, to avoid that they are always playing like chicken without head, just running around, waste their energy, and that's happened too often in many countries in the world.
Now, it's funny that you say that, what you just said, because about 30 years ago, I remember hearing this coach giving his speech at the beginning of the season to his team, and what he said was, to play football you need three things. You need your legs, which is your skills, you need your mind, which is the psychology and thinking of the game, and you need your heart, which is your soul or your will to want to play the game. And I value that speech that I heard, and I actually advise that to my own children playing football and to the teams that I have coached. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree. I mean, you must have more than your feet to play the game of football. As you said, you must have first your passion, your heart, and then you must have your head, your eyes and your brain, and finally you have to finish it up with your feet, what you thought, what is your passion.
I want to ask you to give us some descriptions on this. You mentioned things like players need to choose their menu, players need to be the main actors on the football stage, and players need self-discovery techniques. Now, all of these are very, very strong statements, and what they do is they give the power back to the player, so now they are in control of their own destiny. And it also strongly supports the statistic, which is that you learn 68% if you solve the problem yourself, and only 18% if the answer is given to you.
Very true. That's a statement of a scientific person, John Whitmore from England. I would say a good coach, a good football coach, is not teaching anything to anybody. He only helps his pupils to discover what he wants them to discover, because they should be the main actors, they should be the persons who generate the information themselves. And that is why it is impossible that we continue with the cancer of Australian football. This is an adult game for kids 7, 8, 9 years. That has to be abolished as quickly as possible, because it's going against the rights of the children in this country. We are in a very high cultivated and civilized country. I think one of the most marvelous countries I've seen so far. Everything seems to be new, everything seems to be almost perfect. So I think Australia is a country for many, many people to look forward to live in. But when I would be a young football player, I would better go maybe to a Mediterranean country to learn the process of approaching to the difficulty and complexity of the game of football over there, because they would allow me step by step to grow into the complexity and difficulty of the game. And not like here, they push me in the water and they ask me to swim, and I'm not able to manage this problem, and that is why I think.
Now you mentioned cancer, and to a certain extent I have to agree with you, because many times I've seen over the years, and I'm talking about junior football, where players have gone to trials and they've been selected for teams, and they've been selected because of their brilliance, their skill, their ability to read the game, their vision of the game, and then once they get into these teams, the coaches then say, right, we're going to play this way, we're going to play a different way, and it inhibits their natural abilities instead of unlocking them and developing their natural talents.
Yes, because unfortunately we have too many instructors of the game over here. But not only over here, or especially in Germany we have a lot of instructors. But these instructors, instead of stimulating the youth, they are instructing them. They are limiting them. So I think we should bring our younger generation beyond our possibilities, because they are condemned to play much better than we played in our best or in our worst days. Because imagine, I would prepare a football player from tomorrow onwards, he's 8 years, for 10 years, with the best of my efforts, and I will tell him everything what he should do. He would become a good football player? By sure not. He will become a reserve player, a substitute in 10 years' time, because I will make him
rely on what you're saying rather than him learning himself.
And instead of being creative, he becomes less creative, and he will just be a robot, a player who just is limited by the coach, because the coach is limited, and normally a coach is coaching the same way as he was taught some years ago. So I don't want any limit for the players. I want that the player gets the best out of his potential out of him. And that is why I have to be generous, I have to be modest, I have to present a lot of problems which are children-like, which are easy to resolve from the children point of view. Problems which the kid is resolving and not myself.
Now, another thing you mentioned within your philosophy is you recommend for coaches to encourage player creativity and intelligence through open dialogue and open questions. So do you mean by the ever-inquiring mind, always asking questions, always trying to better themselves by asking questions?
Yeah, already Einstein said you never should stop asking questions. So intelligent players have a lot of questions, but players who don't take care and have no interest, they just want to have a good run, they are not interested in resolving problems. They are just interested to have a good workout. These players, they are not very talented, because they don't have a flair, where they are not artists on the field as I like, they are more laborers on the field. I want to have players which are independent from the coach in most of the aspects of the game. So from time to time, the coach having a talk to the team and to allow every player to put his special stamp and flair to the game. So he gives a frame, and you can't go out from this frame, but you can have different colors to put your personal painting into the frame. So I have to give the frame because it's a team game. So there are certain rules that everybody has to fulfill, but there are not cloned players from the coach. Players which are just obeying exactly what you do, like Van Gaal has done, for instance, with Rivaldo, one of the best players in the world. He has limited one of the best players and have destroyed him completely because his character was by far too strong.